Now, Donald Trump won't be sworn in as president for another month and a half, but is already just shaking things up. The latest example, he tweeted a threat to the Hamas terrorists who still hold 101 Jewish hostages. After 14 months, only half of them still believed to be alive, including American Eden Alexander. Now, Hamas released a video of Alexander yesterday pleading for help. Trump's response? To tweet, if the hostages are not released prior to January 2025, the date that I proudly assume office as President of the United States, there will be all hell to pay in the Middle East and for those in charge who perpetrated these atrocities against humanity. Those responsible will be hit harder than anybody has been hit in the long and storied history of the United States of America. Joining me is Sean Spicer, who was the first White House spokesman when Donald Trump was first president. Sean Spicer, great to see you. All hell to pay, says Donald Trump. What's he actually threatening here?
Well, look, I think Donald Trump wants a deal. And if I can just segue for a moment backwards, a couple days ago, and when you and I spoke last, I think he had just threatened Mexico, China, and Canada with tariffs because they were allowing fentanyl to flow into our country. What did you immediately see? The president of Mexico call on Donald Trump to have a conversation. The Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, flew down to Mar-a-Lago to spend Thanksgiving with him at his resort down there. And I think that this is, again, that kind of idea that he's basically saying to Hamas, all right, you're holding U.S. hostages. I am not going to tolerate that. I am going to demand you release them or you will pay the price. And I think one of the things that the world is quickly going to be reminded is that Donald Trump is going to be a very different president than Joe Biden was, and probably even stronger than he was the first term, now that he's sort of 4 years wiser, if you will, Andrew. So I think he's just putting the world on notice on multiple fronts that the game is about to change again. He is in charge. He is going to demand change. Not just here at home among our government, but throughout the world.
Well, I think he's got some license to do more than Joe Biden has done with Israel, given that you've actually got Americans hostage, or at least their bodies still kept. There was an American hostage, of course, video released a day or two ago. So I suspect he's got license to intervene very much more directly than Joe Biden did. So we shall see about that. But talking about Joe Biden, we discussed last night, Sean, on this show, how he'd broken his promise, made many, many times that he would not pardon his son Hunter. And now he has. In fact, he's pardoned him not just for the two crimes, one of which is found guilty, one that is pleaded guilty to, of tax evasion and lying about his drug habit when he bought a gun, but for anything he may have done in the past decade, which of course includes what he got up to in Ukraine, peddling influence for a corrupt gas company. Now, this must have surely, Sean, embarrassed Joe Biden's many media barrackers like Jennifer Psaki, who's his former White House spokesman, now an MSNBC host, who would boast how Biden, in saying this, he wouldn't pardon his son, showed character. Have a listen to her now, or then, before.
No, I'm not pardoning him.
Joe Biden's character as a public servant is what drove him to make clear that the law applies to everyone. His decision not to pardon his son is not an expression of restraint or removal in any way from what his son has gone through and is continuing to go through, but of principle. Because the justice system that convicted his only surviving son is the same justice system he's vowed to protect. And if that doesn't tell you who Joe Biden is, I don't really know what does.
Sean Spicer, how's the mainstream media now reacting to this reversal?
It's amazing how the U.S. press has handled this. We've gone from Joe Biden lied to us, he flip-flopped on his promise, to Republicans are attacking Joe Biden. So it's our fault on our side of the aisle because he blatantly and patently misled everyone. Look, they're trying to do a sleight of hand here, which is, oh, it's my son. Well, he's known it's his son for whatever the last 40 years. This isn't a surprise. So suddenly to use that excuse, he has up until 2 weeks ago given interview after interview where he has said that Hunter was treated fairly, and that, there was no problem. There's a few issues with all of this. So number one, he was unequivocal up until a couple weeks ago. There was no reason that he would give a pardon to his son, that the justice system had worked fine. Today, somehow, it's a travesty what happened that he was singled out. He's never made that claim before. Number two, the two fundamental issues that Hunter Biden was convicted on, okay, after, by the way, he gave up a sweetheart deal, was one on lying on a gun application, a federal gun application, and two, on not paying his taxes, millions of dollars. The two things that the Democratic Party outside of abortion rally and care most about. So how do you look yourself in the face as any Democrat in this country right now and say, the next time that we call for stricter gun laws, the next time we talk about the rich paying their fair share, we sat by and were silent as Joe Biden's kid did nothing and then he pardoned him? Secondly, you brought up this other issue. Why is this pardon, which is sweeping in its historical nature, good for 11 years about any crime? This only begs the question, what else did he do? What don't we know about? And also, who else is caught up in this? Because my bet, and I'm willing to put down some serious cash on this, is that Jim Biden, his brother, will also be pardoned later because he's probably complicit in all of this. It wasn't like Hunter was doing a lot of this stuff on his own. And so I have a feeling, Andrew, that we are going to see more pardons before January 20th, 2025 at noon.
I'm going to trump you on this one. I shouldn't have used the word Trump, but I am going to trump you on this one, Sean Spicer. I reckon he pardoned himself. Because if he had let Hunter Biden face the courts on what his influence peddling and allegations that he passed off some of the ill-gotten gains to the big guy, his father, that would have seen Joe Biden caught up in it. So I think he pardoned himself.
I agree. I think he pardons the whole Biden family. He'll probably start with his brother Jim. But I think that you're absolutely right. Because I think he's scared of what a Trump Justice Department, a Trump FBI actually can look at. And that's why he started with Hunter and pardoned him blanketly. But it's interesting. I think this is going to go further and further. And they've only raised more questions because the average person sits back and says, let me get this straight. He was convicted of two things, of which you say the Department of Justice, which you control, by the way, was on a witch hunt against your own son. Okay, I don't buy that. But now you have to pardon him for 11 years for crimes that we don't even know about after saying that nobody was above the law. What did he do? What do you know, Joe Biden? Who else is involved? But there's a lot of questions. And you notice that right after he did this, he got on a plane and got out of town.
Sean Spicer, thank you so much for your time.
Always a pleasure, Andrew. Thank you.